Yeah, so it's
Okay, we'll call the January 13th special board meeting for the Sullivan Sanitary District to order. During this special called meeting, the purpose of this meeting is to discuss duties and responsibilities moving forward due to the resignation of the general manager / ORC. That'll be the only item discussed here today. So the reason for this, as that says, is we want to talk with you, the staff, and find out, what the previous manager ORC, what duties he had that are currently picked up by staff and who's doing what. And then if there are any duties that are not currently being done, we want to identify that as well, whether it's, okay, this doesn't happen until the spring or the summer or the fall, or this is something that we don't have time to do, or this is something that we don't have a license to do, or this is just something where we don't know how to do, whatever it may be. We want to just discuss that so we can identify what options we have moving forward. And if it's possible, one option is to divvy up those responsibilities and to take those on and make changes in that regard. And another option is to bring in somebody, a third person to work out with the technicians, and that be somebody that's may not have licenses but can grow in the business and do other things, other duties, if that's, can pick up some duties that maybe Thomas and Jonah are doing or have done in the past. So I want to open that up. Let's start with the manager side of things. What duties are.
Here, I jotted some stuff down and make our copies. And I could have left some stuff out, but this is what I had off the top of my head.
Okay. Okay, so these are things that that the manager would typically do that are either
and
being.
some of the things that I've had to take on.
Okay, so out of these things, let's kind of go through them.
Okay.
What things, you can start at the top, if that's something you're currently doing now that you picked up, or who's picked it up, or if it's not something that's done
Okay.
yet.
So the spending, and I do that every week as far as line items on the budget, making sure that we're in line for what we've proposed for the year.
Mhm.
So I have to look at that each time. Every bill I look at, I need to determine whether it goes to equipment, maintenance, building and grounds, or what have you. So that's one thing.
Okay.
Let's see, managing dates for lockouts, accounts, and billing dates. I have to do that. Any customer complaints and leak adjustments, I've taken on that, which I already dealt with customer complaints being office manager, but
Mhm.
usually if I couldn't satisfy them, it went to the general manager, and now it's, I guess, going to me, and if I can't satisfy them, I'll offer them to come to the board meeting.
Okay.
So, we hadn't had any dirty water calls since he's left, so.
They usually just come, call the office.
Yeah, but as far as monitoring them and making sure that, the field does, flushing or whatever, and then we contact them back and make sure that they're happy.
Yeah.
Fine.
Y'all still write up work orders?
We do.
That's how they're handled.
Ordering supplies, chemical, and products. Normally, all the ordering is done by the general manager. But I've been ordering supplies, like he just said, he's been ordering chemicals. The only thing with ordering the chemicals is, I guess, just make sure we're in line for our budget, because it is a high cost each time.
Yeah.
So that was something, like, if he's going to continue doing that, we kind of need to get together and make sure we're not going to go over budget on that.
Okay.
Approving and signing off on weekly timesheets, keeping up with regular time, comp time, sick time, vacation, I'm doing that. And also any HR questions, insurance, any questions about, like what do I have left on vacation, what do I have left on sick, anything, I've been handling that anyway as office manager, but it kind of ties into the general manager also. Any scheduling for vacation and time off requests is basically all in the same things of what I've been doing. Now, as far as the guys, they used to report to the former ORC on their vacation requests. So we hadn't had any, they hadn't taken any vacation, so.
Yeah. So as of right now, you'll just go to Dana.
And then managing emails for the delinquency of any of the reports that are due by the ORC. I have the main email with SW Sanitary. All of that comes to me. So then therefore I always notify the ORC of, hey, they're saying this isn't done, it's delinquent. And so I can notify them or whatever.
So you, previously, he didn't have his own email address.
He had his own email, but still everything goes to
that.
that main email, which
Okay.
is,
For continuity purposes, do we have access to his in case anything does go to it? We can monitor that. Has that been set up or not? Okay.
I would say that personal, like it's like a personal email or personal through the Southern Lane.
he had a personal through Southern Line,
Okay.
but most of everything went, from my understanding, just to the regular Southern Line, which is the generic email that I manage.
Okay. Typically, like in the past, for companies I've worked with, if somebody leaves, usually that email address gets forwarded to somebody, just in case anything comes into it that can be monitored for a certain amount of time at least. So we need to look into doing that, I think. And I guess who's managing your email accounts? Who sets that up? Is it
Our IT,
your IT?
Don McLean.
Yeah. So if you can reach out to him and find out, I
Okay.
mean, is that fair? I
Yeah.
mean, I just don't want us to miss something just in case he
Always be going somewhere.
randomly signed up for some notification that doesn't get through to the main one.
And I don't mean to overstep my bounds here, but here's my thought on it. Why not have it set up so that anything that's delinquent like that, it needs to go to both of you, because that's almost redundant for you to get it and go, all right, Cliff, now you need to, or excuse me, whomever, all right, this is your job already. You get what I'm saying? Why? I almost seem like we could streamline that by going to the person that's going to submit the stuff, because they should already know.
Right.
And I think-
What's due when it is.
Honestly, what happened was, in the beginning, even when I came, the main Southern Wayne Sanitary, SWSanitary.com was the only email.
Okay.
And then Don came and gave everybody individual ones since I've been here. And so I think that's what I think that's the reason it's still coming to me. I mean, nothing was changed ever after he came and gave all y'all individual emails, because that was just the only email that we had.
Well, I was just gonna offer up that, I mean, I'll gladly take, the responsibility of getting hold of Don or whatever, because I would like to, if I'm gonna be the one that's submitting them in the meantime, I would like, to know that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with that. I think,
So
I'd
you want
rather-
to put that on your list? to
Yes,
contact
ma'am.
Don? Okay. And now, I haven't done this, but I mean, he's only been gone for a short time, but, I know that part of the general manager's duties was make sure the trucks were inspected, oil changed, first aid kits were all up to date, ensuring that the trucks were washed,
We're washing the trucks once a week. We just take them somewhere and run through a.
They haven't been getting washed that often, it's been us that's been doing it.
Oh, okay.
And then as far as like, the basic stuff like managing, the allowances for uniforms, normally, I think the rule of thumb's been like 5 shirts, 5 pants, DOT approved. And I know y'all, actually were requesting to do something a little bit different.
Yeah, I mean, these polyester, well, I mean, it's great if you're sitting behind a desk all day. I mean, and I think that's kind of the person who ordered that, that's what he had in mind. It's something that breathes a little better, I think would be in order. But I mean, and that was something he and I were even discussing. I mean, really no sense in potentially buying any more until a third guy does come on, if that's the route we choose. I mean, so
Yeah,
I think he had been with us for quite a while last year, and he started in February before we bought some, so we're slowly approaching that year mark.
Yeah.
So,
Do y'all wear the same thing year round?
what's that now?
Is it the same clothing year round? It's not like, here's a summer shirt, here's a winter shirt.
Just, yeah.
Okay.
yeah, I'd say, yeah, look into it and see what options are out there.
Oh, well, we went through that uniform place, and they're awesome. I mean, they got several selections, but like something that,
They all like that stuff.
oh, yeah, that's, mandatory.
Hmm.
So. It's just something that wicks water a little better, and the breeze might go through it a little bit and help cool you off.
Kind of like burlap.
Exactly like burlap.
And, now, employee evaluations, warnings, and write-up to normally general, manager's duties. Employee, the cost of living, any kind of, we started doing last year, like evaluations, where you kind of evaluate yourself and then meet with the general manager.
Mhm.
So that way, we can talk about what at raise time, beginning of the budget, beginning of the year, as far as raises, cost of living,
Mhm.
that kind of sort of thing. And, if you get certifications and you get your raises for that.
Okay. When is your typical cost of living increase done?
It's done, at the beginning when we're, projecting our budget for the fiscal year.
Okay, so it takes effect in July, or does it take effect like
It-
April, May?
It takes effect in July,
In
July
July.
1st.
Isn't it already set? It's like a 1 or 1.5% increase every year? Isn't there like a standard?
I think there was some discussion at the last meeting that there's like some kind of set percent that is, but I don't know what that is.
I think Scott said 3.5.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that.
We can rewatch that meeting thing.
Yeah, we'll have to, anyway, that'll be part of the budgeting process anyway.
And I know in the past, if it's just cost of living raises and they're not giving any kind of valuation raises, we've actually contacted a lot of sister war companies in the area in the county and kind of seen like, hey, what are you looking at doing for your cost of living? So we have
Okay.
compared it. I don't know whether y'all want to continue to do that, but that's something that's been done in the past.
Yeah, I definitely think that's a good way to compare and see, make sure things are competitive.
And then, just ensuring like the contact hours for the license, you have to have them done, June, each year before June. And I think it's 6 hours per type of license, if I'm not mistaken,
Or per? Is that what you
per
said?
type of license.
No, you just have to have 6 hours of content each year. And that expires in, it's usually
So
in
it's not
December.
per
Correct,
each
that is
license.
correct. I've got an operator portal I can show you. It's a
Okay,
website. you can go to
That's
and it'll
fine.
show
I
you.
mean, this is just,
Gotcha.
stuff that I
No,
have,
no, no.
just doing a little bit of. And really, that's all I have.
Okay.
And that was done real quick. I mean, I may have left something out. If I do, then, come back to y'all, but that's just stuff off the top of my head today that I typed up.
Okay. So, and these are, what of these are completely new to you since mid-December? Or is a lot of it, some of it doing?
A lot of it, I was doing anyway,
Yeah.
with the last general manager. And then, I know we had spoken, I know this is a little bit, I don't know if it's off subject or not, but I just wanted to pass these out because we had talked about, positions and stuff, and I did run across these
Okay,
for the office manager, and then Sherry's got one, and for the office assistant, just for the duties, so y'all can kind of know what's going on and what we're doing today.
do you have
And,
copies of your sharing as well?
just give him that one, I can get some copies.
Okay,
That way he'll just,
thank you. Okay, because we won't resolve this today, but we need to revisit these and identify, make sure they're current. And then if there are additional responsibilities, is the current titles across the board, are they appropriate, or does it need to be something different?
Okay.
So I don't think it's something we're resolved, and it's also something I wouldn't want to resolve without having more of the board in place
Oh, yeah.
as well. But we'll get more copies so we can get them those as well.
Okay.
Y'all have questions about the manager duties?
I got, so when y'all had a problem, y'all had to report to Cliff as far as, here's the problem, what do you want to do about it? But if the ORC is the problem, we kind of want to remedy that situation. So I don't know what the best answer is, but
If in our handbook, it does say it's the grievance policy or something. It does say, matter of fact, me and Thomas were reading it the other day. If you had a problem like with the ORC, you're supposed to be able to go to the board, like where you don't have to, they're already the problem. You don't want to go to them. So it does state that you go to the board as far as your next step, your first step to go.
okay. I mean, do y'all feel comfortable with that?
Yes, I
Okay.
agree with that. I agree with
Okay.
that.
All right, as long as y'all are comfortable with it. A lot of the, like trucks, shirts, fire extinguishers, first aid, all that can just be in an Excel document. I mean, that's pretty easy to keep up with.
Mhm.
What, I guess what I want to know is what have you picked up that's cut into time that didn't used to cut into your weekly time?
Going through the billing, that's the biggest thing is just going through the billing each week, making sure what goes to what, as far as line items. Because normally, the last general manager would just kind of go through them. He knew the jobs that were going on prior that we were getting invoices for, like say Cox Networks or someone doing something for us. He knew exactly what it was for, so he could go ahead and let us know what line item, like, that was equipment maintenance, or, this is building and grounds. I'm kind of having to look each one up, to kind of, especially jobs I'm not familiar with, that was done prior to him leaving, to kind of figure out what line item they need to go in the budget.
But, I mean, just communicating with either of them, make that go smoother.
Yes, yeah, and, which, I kind of looked at the past, like if it's a repair on, like a main line or, a tap, or what you call them, setters. I'll look it up on QuickBooks and say, okay, let me find one that's similar to that cost, and say, hey, when we replace it, that's what we charge it to. So that's taking just a little bit of time, but as time goes by, I may get more involved in, knowing what's going on. It should be pretty quick about it, but it's going through that, going through their timesheets, and, making sure all the time is like it should be, and, as far as holidays and comp time and everything, and then signing off, making sure everything's added up right. Leak adjustments, there's a policy on that, and I can get y'all a copy of it if you don't already have one, but it was passed by the board a while back. The way our leak adjustments go is it's a standard for leak adjustments that the general manager can go ahead and approve in office without it going to the board, as long as the bill that they have to leak on is at least 3 times more than the average amount. And then they have to be a customer of ours at least 6 months. And what am I forgetting? Yeah, and it's only one adjustment per year for 12 months. So as long as I meet those criteria, I've been approving them because that's our policy. And normally, even though they met the criteria, we would pass it on to the general manager and he would look. Because a lot of times we have, it took them 2 or 3 months to get the leak done. So they got 3 high bills, and we're only allowed to adjust with the policy you know, just one high bill, and you'll have exceptions like that, and that goes to the general manager, so I have to take on a couple of those, so. Since he's been gone. I'm trying to make sure I answer everything. And then the schedule and the vacation and time off, I've been managing that.
So when Cliff was here, I know I had a few complaints about, he's not actually here when he says he's here. And, you know, my obvious thing with that was, you know, let's just get a time slot. What do y'all feel is the best thing to do? And I say that saying, I don't feel like anybody's cheating the system here.
Yeah.
But I know it is easy to do, but, you know, if you weren't here and somebody else was here, what do you think would be the best way to go about it?
My only problem with the time clock is, okay, what about all the times when we get a call in like the evenings or after hours emergencies? Instead of going and just getting in our truck and going to it, we have to come in, clock in. It just, and we're allotted 2 hours for those anyways. I mean, and those are just things that we would have to take into account for that. I mean, would we allow those to be wrote in?
Yeah, and I mean, that's normally, managed by the general manager without having time sheets. They're watching, make sure everybody's putting down the time they get here and stuff like that with it. And now that position, but now that he's gone, I don't see any problem with the 4.
Right. I don't either. It's just,
But,
I don't want it to be a problem in the future.
yeah,
Well, the big thing, not to, I mean, I guess is if there's ever a dispute on time, I guess it would probably possibly be you, I guess, from gathering. You want to have to say, no, I'm not saying you are, that's a responsibility that's on your plate, I guess.
Mm.
That somebody's lying on their time sheet, now it's on
and
you
so that's
versus.
what, and that's
a
all
time
about
clock.
me checking them off each week. I mean, I'm, you know, got it in my head, okay, he didn't get here till 8:30, does this time sheet reflect that? So, I mean, that's part of signing off on the time sheets.
I just don't want to put you in a position where, you know, Thomas said Saturday he went to a call, but Thomas actually went to a birthday party.
Yeah,
And you know that, and we know it, but you're signing off on it, so I don't want to have to call you and say, hey, look, I know that didn't happen, why are you helping? That's, you know, we're just trying to make everything as foolproof and easy as
But
possible.
yeah, I don't also want to put overhead on them to have to come here and clock in and
Oh, yeah,
then
absolutely.
go to a call
Which
and meanwhile my yard's flooded with water.
Well, there's also, I mean, I don't know what it costs, but I mean, there's time systems that you log in on your phone. You just log right in and say, hey,
Yeah.
'cause I mean, as
I
far as
mean-
I'm concerned, if you're on call, the second you get in your truck to head to the call, until you said you get 2 hours anyway, but.
Do we have GPS on the trucks? That'd probably be the easiest thing, because I mean, we track the trucks just so if we get a call, they can look it up without calling, hey, where are you?
Or riding down the road trying to log into something.
Yeah. That way we know, you know, okay, here's the truck leaving your house.
Yeah.
If it's on, we know. That'd probably be, you know, good.
Well,
Good adjustment.
the only thing, to speak to the other side of the coin to that, I can't tell you how many hours where I'll get a phone call and I'll deal with a disgruntled customer or whatever, what have you, and I just chalk it up. Like, I mean, literally eat those hours. Having something where you could still electronically sign in, I mean, I would like to begin documenting my time. I don't want to milk and, you know, nickel and dime somebody, but if yeah, I mean, especially on the days that we do cutoff, you can go ahead and guarantee that, you know, you're gonna get beat up that afternoon. So, it just, I mean, it's something to consider.
Definitely, I mean, if you're with your family, but you're still having to take phone calls.
You know,
It's still a lost time.
My opinion, you already pay for that time period.
Yeah, and I don't know the best solution for it, but I mean, let's all get together and kind of brainstorm.
I mean, think about it and see, I mean, when we talk to some of these other districts, see how they're doing things. You know, we want to make sure that we're current and we're doing things the right way. We're not behind the times on anything. So we can ask them, you know, how they track it, but also don't want to make it, you know, so cumbersome that, you know, 15 minutes of overhead a day trying to log time.
right.
So I don't think there's an issue now with how things are being done. We just want to make sure it's efficient moving forward. So,
And, another thing is to kind of explain a little bit more about managing the dates for the lockouts, to lock out accounts and, billing dates. We always have to look, if, we normally try to cut off on the 21st. If it falls on a Friday, we won't cut off on the 21st, we'll do it on the following Monday, because we don't want to leave the customer without water all weekend. And, so we always kind of have to look at that, kind of look at their schedule, if they don't have anything that's popped up, like a, main league or, something like that. And, we always have to have our billing done. We have to wait till the 25th, because on our bills, it states that if they are cut off and they don't come back in to make their bill right by the 25th, that we close their account and use their deposit to pay the balance, kind of thing. So we have to give them to the 25th before we can even start billing for the new month. But we also have to look at the weekends and stuff like that. So that's why each month we have to kind of look and say, okay, well, we're gonna try to cut off such and such day, and so that way we can bill such and such day, because we try to give them some business hours that we're open from the time we cut them off to come back in to get their bill paid and their water back on, because if it's not back on by the time we do billing, we have to close them out. So we try to give them a little bit of time.
How many cutoffs are you averaging?
Well, we didn't do cutoffs in December because of Christmas, and we haven't done cutoffs in December since I've been here because of Christmas, and I've been here 5 years. Do you remember how many we had in November right out?
It's been somewhere around 20.
What did you say?
Okay, so it's
Yeah.
not.
And now let me explain that to you. We have 100 on the list. Me and Sherry called every one of them to try to, because we're trying to catch, if it's the regulars that are on the cutoff list every month, we'll let them go and not call in. But if it's, old elderly person down the street that we know of, and, we look at their account history and they've always paid on time or early, we try to call them and not turn them off. But that is very time consuming for two of us. And then at that time of the month, people, the last minute people who do pay are trying to hurry up and get paid, come in and pay before they get cut off.
Yeah.
It's tough to make those 100 phone calls, or at least 90 phone calls.
Yeah. So these regulars, they get disconnected and have to pay and reconnect every month.
Yes. Mhm.
Oh, yeah.
We have people that, because the way our billing system goes, everybody's bill's due on the 10th. On the 15th, if we hadn't received payment by the 16th, we had a $5 late charge on the 16th, that morning when we come in here. And then, if they haven't paid on the 20th by 1 o'clock, we add a $75 breach of contract fee. That's if they get cut off or not, just if it's the 20th at 1 o'clock, they haven't
That's
paid. we add that.
$80 there.
And we have customers that pay $80 for 6 months. They could have put that on their account as a credit and not have to worry about it, and been paid up for 2
They have to
years.
pay to have the water turned back on, another deposit or not.
Then and then if we end up closing it out, like I was saying, after the 25th, if they didn't come in to make it right, we have to use their deposit to close out the account and pay toward whatever their balance is. And with those fees, most of the time the deposit's not even gonna take care of, their bill that's past due plus those fees. So they have to pay that balance and then come back in and pay a deposit and service.
Do you have people that do that every month?
Yes, we have this one customer that has done it probably 10 times.
112 Brentwood, does that sound about right?
I don't remember his address. I know his name, but I'm not saying names.
Yeah. I know that big well by heart, I've been through some of these.
And then when we have those customers, that particular one, we try to counsel them. We try to, let them know.
I'm just thinking about the time that goes into that,
Yes, and it's a lot of
Every
paperwork. We really want them to come back in and make it right before we have to close them out, use their deposit to pay their balance, and then have to come in and us do all new paperwork again.
Yeah.
It's really time consuming.
That's
them shutting off and going right back to.
No, when they pay, it gets turned on that day. As long as the deposit hits or it's cleared before 4 p.m. of that day.
Yeah.
Okay, but if it doesn't clear or they pay online over the weekend, it's just the next business.
The next business day, that's correct.
And so that's something else we monitor, like, because we can't charge a $75 fee until 1 o'clock, the breach of contract fee until 1 o'clock on the 20th. So We go ahead and post everything we have in the office, but then people are paying online still. So, you know, we have to go in, Invoice Cloud, which is, does all our online payments. We have to, do a print off for 1 o'clock. That way, with all the people, since we've been closing out, have paid, you know, in that 30-minute time frame.
Yeah.
We make sure we don't cut them off or charge them the $75 fee.
Okay. Yeah, that is quite a bit of time. I guess it's consistent though, that time of, around that time of the month, the 21st, 20th,
Yeah.
through the end of the month.
You have a suggestion on how to make it better or easier, faster?
Well, we tried not to call the customers, and just cut off, I mean, 'cause since that part is the most time consuming, and just cut off whoever hadn't paid. But we've had issues, and I think you were involved with one that got cut off, and, you know, we hated it. But, you know, it's hard to manage all that, and, you know, they're wanting to start cutoffs pretty early that morning, so that way, you know, they can have everybody cut off before, you know, we close, that way it'll give them time, so they're not all evening without water. Because a lot of people don't get off till 4 or 5 o'clock, and they come home and don't have water, and then we're already gone. And so they want to cut off as early as possible, and if we have to call them all, then, you know, sometimes it's after lunch before we can get them a list.
Yeah, and then after they're cut off and then they paid, then we gotta get cut them back on. So I mean,
So, I
we know
mean,
that's in the loop.
It's bad either
Yeah.
way. I mean, we've tried it both ways. I mean, it's time consuming to call them all, but then, you know, you can accidentally cut off somebody that's not a normal. And, you know, it's a little elderly person that lives by themselves on a fixed income. And I mean, we have, I'll tell you, we've allowed most of our customers that normally pay on time, and they got that $75 fee for the first time. They come in and they're upset about it. We have, set like, where we removed that $75 fee once for them, and we'd explain, you know, if they're normally paying.
Yeah, I
good
think
and
that's
stuff.
fair. Yeah.
So, we always make a note on their account if we've done that for them, so that way we'll know we've done it in the past for
So
them.
once a year, once period.
Once, period.
Okay.
Once, period.
The biggest problem, I think it was Miss Ethel's piece that got cut
Yes,
off.
that.
But she receives her bill in the mail. And that's the ones that's kind of like, you know, I've received other people's water bill. Sometimes I've gotten it after the cutoff date. So those are the main ones I want to give a phone call, people that have been,
Yeah,
I mean, especially them, you know, if you have time to get them all.
and
great.
see, and it's just hard to distinguish, hey, this is, you know, this is so-and-so, when you got a list of 100, it's tough.
Mhm.
And then the mail lately is crazy. I mean, when we've got a contract or permit with, the post office, and they're supposed to be first class mail. They're supposed to be getting it, what, a day or two? And, it's taken 2 weeks before,
Mhm.
and it's just getting worse. So, but anyways, I'll push. So that's all I have.
Yeah. Or have any other comments about the manager position? Duties?
I don't think so. Not right now.
So it sounds like right now, you've got time, you work, all these things are worked in, managing that. And that's, from y'all's side of things, everything's flowing at the moment.
Yes.
Okay. All right, let's talk about the ORC side. Kind of the same question, the duties that were handled by previous ORC that you're now having to pick up and do. What does that entail?
First, you want me to? Go ahead.
All right. Cliff was in charge of all chemical pump settings changes. If it involved anything inside the 4 walls of our wells, he was in charge of that. And I've assumed that responsibility since I'm the one with the well license. The ordering of chemicals, obviously the submitting of information. I've got in contact with the 2 facilities that I wasn't previously already submitting to. Dana, we got a letter in the mail today on another thing that I'm to be made aware of. He was in charge of issuing all, like our lead and copper samples, back tees. I've assumed that I mean, obviously, trying to think what else, the static and pumping levels that need to be submitted, the contacting of our contractors in an emergency. I've called Jason Brett 3 times in the past couple of days and he has not answered. What's that? Hey, he's answered before. I don't know what I did now. I guess, but, trying to think what else.
What do you need to get in touch with Jason about?
To find out about that soft start at the fairgrounds. I want to say it's go for utilities, but I wanted to check with Jason because he installed all the electrical equipment around it. So I figured if anybody would know, he would know first.
To say he's local.
Right, well, and that too.
4 hours out.
Yeah. Yeah, any programming changes as far as SCADA goes on our stop and start fuel points. Speaking of which, the altitude adjustment valve over in front of the checkerboard is going to need to be adjusted at some point. And I know a little bit about it, but it's going to require somebody to read the manual on it, and it's not a pamphlet.
Is that something we would typically do ourselves or? have
Oh
somebody
yeah,
else?
absolutely. Yeah, because now the AIDA credit was down for that project and he had made some tweaks to it and it's not functioning properly. So we got to figure out why, fix that and then adjust it. It's not going and flip a switch, unfortunately. I think John will agree. I mean, I've just been delegating the workflow how I see best, as Cliff normally would. Whereas he was in no real rush when he got here to make sure that the day-to-day stuff got knocked out first, and then that way you could easily catch all, anything that was thrown at you, any of the unforeseen stuff, just like this league that we just had on Clark. That doesn't feel like all that it has been, but I mean, other than the handling of work orders and the checking of the plants on a very bare scale, I mean, I don't think there's anything that we haven't one way or another had to incorporate into our schedule that he was responsible for as far as the ORC side.
Well, John, those are things your side add.
I mean,
Well, it's just like I shuffled the MRT responsibility to you because it is distribution and I was doing it so that I can now take on more what Cliff was doing.
I mean, you can kind of feel some of the stuff we've picked up. I mean, like he said, the calling the contractors, keeping up with them, kind of getting pulled between the wells, work orders, leaks, whatever may be going on, contractors. I mean, it's kind of, we can feel the burn, so to speak. They're every other weekend, every other week on call and the weekend. And, I mean, we got it so far.
Similar question was asked, Dana and Sherry, are there things that were done by the ORC that we're not currently doing? We don't have time or it hasn't come up yet?
Well, I've intentionally waited to see which way we're going to move forward before I begin submitting information that the ORC has to submit, like the CCR, the pumping and static levels. It just things that are tied into the license before I, until I'm whomever. There's distribution forms that have to be filled out as well to whomever's license has been associated with that. I've been holding off on that, partly because of that, partly because they're already delinquent too. And it's if he wasn't doing it, you get what I'm saying? That's just one more thing that I'm going to have to find time to do.
Yeah. assess something, how delinquent are we?
Like I said, on one, it was done back in October of this year, and then the other one is delinquent as of June.
June of last year?
Yes, sir.
And they're due how often?
All my stuff has a due date of the 10th of the month. So how that
See,
went,
I had a list of those. I didn't bring them in the meeting with me.
Right.
I know some of them are quarterly, some of them are monthly.
and then some of them are annual. So I mean,
Yeah.
when I say delinquent, we're not current. Now, whether or not we have fallen behind somebody's deadline or not, that, how could I know? I haven't been doing them. So I can find out and see to it that it's brought up to speed. But like I said, until certain matters were discussed, I didn't know which direction exactly I needed to move forward in.
I'd say between now and the next meeting, you could have all that just laid out. You know, these are the reports and this is when they're due, this is when they were last submitted.
I don't know, like you want to see the physical copies of the reports as well, and go, hey, this is what this one's called, this is what it looks like.
Not necessarily,
Okay,
because we probably won't really understand what they are talking about, but I mean, as long as y'all know, or you know, and Pat can.
I'd be glad to explain that too. I mean, it's all numbers, gallons pumped, hours ran, what your drawdown equals out of that. I mean, it's all, it would make sense easily, I feel like.
Okay, well, we can dive into it then. Just, I think that's important for us to know and identify, make sure we know who's submitting what and when, and to get current and stay current on those.
I think, and cut me off once it needs to go into executive session, but the bigger question is, do we need another person? Because it's easy to justify a pay bump for you guys in the budget. If y'all want to pick up the role, and I've talked to each one of you individually. I know both y'all said that, you know, having to be on call every other weekend is kind of hard, you know, and if we do need to bring someone else in, if that's what y'all want, do they need to be full-time, part-time? And, you know, can the office handle their stuff on their own? And, you know, we just bump your pay and then we bring someone in part-time. That's kind of what we're after.
Yes. When you say part-time, what are you referring to as? I mean, it could be a weekly part-time or a weekend part-time,
I don't know. I mean, it's kind of, what are your thoughts? I mean, it sounds like the ideal thing would be somebody who's licensed, who's maybe retired, and maybe willing to be on call, you know, every third weekend. You know, we've definitely got some people that can come in that live in the district that are willing to be part-time.
But if you need somebody that's here during the week to help with things like drive around and collect to read meters. So y'all don't have to do that, or anything else, you know. Well, I guess the responsibility of a person on the weekend call, what do they have to have? Like, they have to be licensed.
They have to either they got to at least have a C-well or have 6 months experience, and then the approval of whoever's the license is.
Okay. So somebody could come in, and not have anything, work 6 months, learn from you all, and then
If
you
we feel
approve,
comfortable
you feel
enough with
comfortable.
them, yeah.
if you trust.
Yeah, that's what it
Was
boils
that
down to.
something we'd have time to think about amongst ourselves, or is that something y'all looking for right now?
No, we're not gonna make that decision now, because like I said, we wanna have some, at least Scott present, so we can just, you know, he's aware. And
My initial take on it is that part-time is gonna be interesting to have them here enough to train them to where you do feel comfortable with them. You get what I'm saying? Like, it's,
Just correct me if I'm wrong, Thomas, and, but when you're kind of referring to somebody petitioning part-time, you're more or less looking from bringing in somebody that's already licensed to help out on a
Yeah.
weekend call. If
No
we were to
names,
go to more of a non-licensed person, it would be more of a full-time position from a grunt level. As far as if we were bringing in somebody without a license, that would be here full-time.
yeah,
You know, that would eventually, you know, if they don't, because like you said, I mean, you're probably not finding somebody off the street who's got the license to come in. So then you're looking at a 6-month time period at the minimum
right.
before you can have a third person on call.
And if we did go someone with no credentials and just kind of off the street, as to say, it would really be nice if they were bilingual.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, how many times do we get somebody through the drive-through, I mean, there's a language barrier. So it's just, that was something else I was thinking of that I think we should stress in the desires of the applicant,
And that information I just handed you on that yellow sticky, Matthew.
Yep.
That gentleman called today, saying that he had heard about the situation and he has, licensed people that they could partnership or possibly help in any positions needed in the field.
You know where he's at? Where's that?
He's, I don't know what city he is at, but that's the company's name.
704 on Charlotte.
How did he find out?
He didn't say, And he was with, was it Works,
Carolina Water Service.
Carolina Water Service, his name was Harold Greer. Is that right? Yeah. So,
So he sound like he kind of was like contract work basically.
sounded like it, yeah. And his exact words were, I could partnership with you for your needs or
Mhm.
try specific jobs out.
Yeah, I've heard that discussion before somehow about that's a, people like that, they provide, they have staff that they can send out and provide that. You operate under their licenses. They provide assistance.
Is the on-call, is that the biggest issue y'all think right now as far as the workload?
I hate to grapple about it, but I mean, it kind of is, right? Once you get tired every other week, we're not physically tired, but like it's kind of a,
You can gripe about it, we get it.
well, I mean, you have kids obviously too, and
Yeah.
you as well. We both kind of, I've had worse jobs as far as that goes. I mean, it's not a, it's how you feel. Sit here, mother mouth to mouth.
I mean, yeah, it of course it gets old every other week, but I don't want that to be the main motivator of why we make a decision going forward. You get what I'm saying? It seems like a feeling that weekend void part-time is going to be more headache than anything. Because like I said, how are you going to train somebody at that pace? I'm still gonna be coming in on the weekends to do that, if that is the case, if that's when they at work, or if they do come in during the week. It just, I see a void there, and I don't know how to feel it.
I mean, if we do go with someone just to do that, we'll probably get somebody that's fully licensed anyways.
Okay.
So, I mean, that part wouldn't be an issue, but, is the juice worth the squeeze? We're here to, do what it takes to make it easier and better for you, so. I guess just think about it. Figure it out, and, I mean, do y'all feel like y'all need a manager over you?
But Danny, you feel like you've taken on that role? I mean,
Kinda,
based
yeah.
on your list.
Mhm.
I mean, I'd much rather, I wasn't here, but things definitely seemed uptight, and they seem a little more laid back to me now.
Mhm.
And I would definitely rather work in a more laid back setting than uptight. But
Definitely.
I mean, we want to do what you want to do, so if you want us to look for somebody, we'll look for somebody.
No. I mean, I feel like we're taking care of it fine.
Okay.
Do what?
You've been doing really.
Well, if the office side is fine, then, we'll look at, compensation for the extra workload. And then on y'all guys' part, just kind of tell us what you want, where to go from here.
Yeah, I guess that's the question to me. I mean, speak freely, I'm not trying to accuse or say this is why, but is it from the standpoint of, I'm not really getting paid enough to be on call every other week from that standpoint? Or is it literally, I just want to be able to go home more than every other weekend with my family? I mean, I'm just asking. I mean, I work 6 days a week, to set it every week on the farm. So, you know, that's just my schedule. But I get, everybody don't want to be a farmer, so, you know, and I get that too, like, you know. So I'm just asking like from the standpoint is, well, I mean, if I got enough money to justify it, yeah, I'd be here every other weekend, but I don't, or is it literally, man, I just really don't want to have to work every other weekend.
Kind of a little bit of both. I mean, sort of, because I mean, you're sort of tied to the phone the week you're on call and that weekend. You know, I mean, you can leave your house, but I mean, I've been out to eat. Matter of fact, I was on call when the purple water got pumped from over here next door. I was at the movies and Cliff called me on my personal phone. I got the work phone right here. And I'm like, I'm at the movies, man. He would call just to kind of chat sometimes, you know, and so I walk outside and answer the phone. He's all the pieces, you know. I'm like, all right, well, are you busy? I'm like, yeah, but I mean, it's work. It is what it is. So I carried him home, came out here and done what I could do. And yeah, kind of got off subject there, but I mean, you're sort of tied to your phone for those 7 days straight. You know, whether or not you get called out or not, it's kind of a different story. It's not a go weeks or months on end without getting a call. I mean,
But you're still tied. I mean, you're not
Yeah.
going anywhere. You're not doing anything.
right.
And also as far as like traveling or doing stuff with your family, you don't feel like you can go far.
Yeah, the holidays kind of,
Yeah.
you know, yeah, I mean, so I asked Thomas if he'll watch out for me for a 2-hour window so I could go do family pictures that were not in Wayne County, you know what I mean? Just kind of not petty, but small stuff like that that kind of, you know, because that was once we started the every other week deal when Cliff had just kind of went out the door, so to speak. We had that plan for a weekend that I was not on call. And then it's sort of kind of, you know.
When you're on call, do you have to go to the wells every Saturday and Sunday?
Yeah.
You do? So no matter what, you're coming.
Right.
Okay.
But I've tried to, I'll get up early and come out and be here and be done by 9, and then you'll get home and about lunch, you'll get a call. And then you try to do it's a roll of the dice every way you shake it.
If you wait and you don't get another call, you wasted your day. You know?
And there's no way to do it remotely with the SCADA system. It has to be physically checked.
Oh, I would shoot, I wish, shoot.
Now, I have heard that Wayne Water is talking about going that way, and I hate to bring them up and all that. I've got guys I know well that work over there, and they were talking about cutting out their overtime, the well guys, by having something set up.
There's instrumentation that they
checks.
can, you push a
It'll
button
alert
and it'll sample the water. But
But
it's
astronomical.
mad buku money. I mean, it's,
And there's nothing like laying eyes on it, and you see that the caustic is leaking on the floor.
that too, you have to have it set up to where you can also allow that 4 to 20 signal be what operates your chem pump. So if you wanted to make any adjustment, you could do it through SCADA remotely, but you're just talking more time and money. Which I would love to see something like that during my lifetime and duration at this place. That would, I mean, because I think technology, we're heading that way anyhow. But no, I mean, ultimately, yeah, compensation is a big thing because it already feels like, I mean, that with this industry, they're constantly giving you new stuff. Since I've been here, 811 got added, the stuff with Esri's been added. We're not getting less stuff to do every day by any means. And if I may speak freely, I really don't feel like the 2.5% raise per cert gained is anywhere near an incentive. If you guys knew what all was involved, the headache and with those tests, 2.5% would never make me feel like I don't really need this cert, but it'd be great for the district. That will never be like, oh yeah, let me go above and beyond on this for that little, you know, stroke. I'm not sure what the industry standard is for that. I don't know if other districts, I've heard some are higher, some are lower. So I would like that visited.
Yeah, I mean, 2.5%, I mean.
And it's just like, I heard a quote this year, like if you got a 2.6 cost of living increase, the cost of everything else has went up over 7%, so you didn't get an increase. It,
We need to come up with a way to calculate that. The cost of living increase, I mean, with.
What's
inflation.
out there?
Oh, that's like public answer.
oh yeah, yeah, you Google it. But it,
And I'll agree with sort of, they can be kind of hard to get, when you try to learn new math, and, you know what I mean? I hate that term, but it's, you know.
Yeah.
Volume and pressure, I mean, it's all kind of.
Okay.
So it sounds like if we could find someone who'd be willing to come in and, you know, work a third weekend, that y'all wouldn't turn that down to any,
no, absolutely.
but not necessarily an extra person.
So you'd see that as a minimum, but yeah, is there a need to have somebody else here day to day?
And don't feel like you have an answer right now, but you know. If you're,
Well, my thought is the previous thought we did, and the issue with it is when, say tomorrow morning, he wakes up, he's sick, then all the pressure gets shifted on one person with it, and you'd be surprised, I mean, and that's always the days that
Everything goes
wrong, you get more than
And we had the
normal.
same thing.
Yeah,
more
Always
than-
that way, too.
It,
So,
It does.
it works. Yeah.
but what I think, and I'm hoping that this is the same goal that the previous minds had, is that we're also training that person so that, you know, when one does step down, two step back up, you get another person in rotation, you train them, and it just, because
In the long run.
once again, this is twice now that I've been here that we are now without ORC. And it's almost, it looks like poor planning. You get what I'm saying? I know nobody has a crystal ball, but it's kind of like the phrase, I'm tired of us. What's the word I'm looking for? Dang, come back to me. I can't believe I can't think of this.
you know, the biggest problem is when you hire someone that everybody thinks they need to put that person on the pedestal. And I'd rather y'all all be equal as well as with us. If you feel it's wrong, tell us.
I mean, it came to me. I think we need to get out of the habit of hiring the replacement.
That's what you said.
Yeah, it's, and that's what we're doing, and I don't think that that's working for us.
You're saying replacing one-to-one, we need to look at how things are divvied up.
Well, it seems like we keep replacing that one position because it's the system that's in place isn't working.
So I know what kind of what you're getting at is we're not able to promote within to ORC and bring in the next man that's gonna start to work his way to be an ORC one day.
Exactly.
So in other words,
Pretty much.
say either one of you, and I don't even know who's been here the longest, and I ain't asked either, but
I got one.
hey, Thomas, you know, you're the next in line for ORC. We wanna, you know, ask you want a position, take a position, and then fill in a grunt level position, which is obviously far easier to do than trying to find an ORC.
Right.
Right?
That's my two
That's
cents.
basically what we're getting
Yeah.
at.
Next man up, then you fill the back slot, and then that way, everything. I mean,
For sure. So, I mean, that's how I run my show.
because it was an interesting dynamic that Cliff and I had when he come in, because I knew more about the district, but he had the experience as far as a well operator. So I mean, in the beginning, yes, it worked nicely because he was gaining from me, I was gaining from him.
Feeding off each other.
Yeah, but like I said, now I don't know, it just seems like the other way we'd be moving forward, whereas we just keep one step forward, one step back. One step forward. I mean, if you keep facing the same issues, time to, you know, go back to the drawing board, I feel like.
And we don't have to hire someone and give them this ORC manager title. I mean, we can just hire someone. So we don't have to have, I feel like, so, I mean, y'all got kind of a duo here because you've been here longer, but you've been doing water longer, haven't you? So, I mean.
Yeah, and I mean, I've learned plenty off of him. I hope maybe I have showed maybe a little something that you didn't know. You know, I mean, kind of, and we get along pretty good. So I mean, it's you know,
It's a working formula so far. I feel like.
yeah. I mean,
And see, if we bring in a third person and more or no less, you know, there's always gonna be bitter feelings about it, especially once pay comes into it.
Right.
Because I mean, if they're more licensed, but they don't work as hard, so that's what we want to limit. So,
I think that was a prime example of what the case was.
so maybe just think about what exactly you would like us, what route you'd like us to
Vote from within and
Someone trying.
yeah. I mean,
Or
it's like I
somebody
said,
at your level with at least a license. At
go.
the state, I mean,
I would
a
say
single
single.
license.
That'd probably be one of
Good, best of luck. I think in a perfect world, yeah, that'd be a place to start, but unless you stole from another, these, like I said, these people, if they have a license, they're in the industry. It's just like Cliff. I dare say now that he's no longer in the industry, what incentive does he have to pay out of pocket to keep his licenses annually renewed? The people who, if you're not using them, you lose them intentionally. So you don't have that fee, but I would love to see the candidate that, like I said, is, we fill the generation gap. He's early 40s, I'm early 30s. We can find somebody, because I would love to start in this industry when I was 18. God knows at the thought of retiring in 12 more years.
Right.
I mean, or you get what I'm saying, something along those lines, that would, who wouldn't like that? But
Well, it won't, if that's the way we go, I mean, it doesn't hurt to put it out there, and it doesn't hurt to see what the candidates will
let's
look
choose the
like.
best applicant.
And the way, you know, the hope to do the hiring moving forward is for others to have an input on that process. We're not in a position to know whether this candidate or this candidate looks better other than what they've written on a piece of paper or a resume. You'll be able to talk to them and know, you know, really what they understand and what, you know, make sure that we bring on somebody that's going to be a benefit to the district and to y'all.
And I think he and I are on consensus of this. Yeah, I want it to be somebody that I don't know. I got no reason to even bring them here. You get what I'm saying? Because I feel like that's even going to put things further off on a good foot. It's because there's just no, you know what I'm saying? If it's just like, oh, when Cliff brought on somebody else, that immediately drove a wedge between me and him, because it's like, all right, so we're hiring buddies now. I'm talking about Michael. It just, and then he was talking about hiring his neighbor. Well, thank God he didn't hire his neighbor, because they're in like a feud right now, like restraining orders and all kinds of crazy mess going on. So it just,
Well,
that's I think we're on to something here.
but what I'd like, and if the board's okay with it as a whole, is to put together kind of similar to what Dana and Sherry given us, like what the duties of that person would be, what it would look like. If you have it already, that's great. It may be from a previous job posting.
Yeah.
To start with.
Previous job posting for a field person.
So start with that, and y'all look at it, modify it, and what the requirements are. You know, if we're looking for somebody with a C well or C distribute or whatever it is, then let's lay that out and we can talk about it at the next meeting and see what, you know, post that and see what kind of candidates we get.
My initial thought on that is, I think more than anything, we need somebody that has at least turned a wrench on something. They need to be able to look at a bolt and be like, oh, that's half inch, no, that's 9/16, or at least be able to get themselves in the ballpark, or that we can send to the truck, tell them, hey, go get me this tool, and they can do that. When Michael started, Lord knows we had to sit him down and school him on what tools were called. It just, I think that should be kind of where we base our.
Yeah, that'd be part of the interview process. I mean, we can ask the interview team can ask those types of questions.
Oh, yeah.
And also someone fairly green, you can kind of train them how you want them to be versus them coming in, well, I know how to do it.
Well, that was the talk with Michael, and I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying that here was the counter of that I've witnessed personally. They wanted somebody with no bad habits. Well, what we ended up with was somebody with no habits. So, and I don't know which one's harder to be.
We'll be able to pick up a vibe on the interview and
I agree.
we're gonna sit in on that as well, right, with y'all?
We haven't finished the hiring policy, but what we want.
It was
is-
adopted though, and in the current one.
Yeah, it's kind of like a rough draft, just so we can say we have something. But at the next meeting, you know, if you feel like coming, absolutely. Whatever you feel like needs to be, I mean, to me, it'd be, you know, the full board and the staff. And we'll have a private interview with however many people apply. Because I mean, if y'all get bad vibes right out the gate, you know, there's no point in us wasting our time.
Well, to answer your question, generally, the idea is to have at least one of y'all involved in the interview. You know, even if it's, well, we can't both be there that day because I got this. Having one of y'all involved and y'all can feel her off each other about it, you know. That, you know,
I can live with that.
at the very least, in my personal opinion,
Yes.
and same office side, you know.
Is there anything else that, you know, makes the job easier or smoother? I know we kind of got to stay on the ORC, but just
As long as we're talking about duties and responsibilities, I mean, if there's anything,
is there something y'all been doing without, but the job would be way easier if you had it?
I think we're pretty well kitted as far as that goes. I mean, yeah, you can cool believe if we needed, we normally got to have it. So, and I can't think of anything that sprouted up recently that it would just make things turnkey, because that's pretty much how we've got it now.
how about in the office? Justin wants to replace the desk.
I gotta sit there much more.
I mean, there's most of the office supplies and stuff, I mean, we're kind of go with it, it's in the budget, you know, just
Okay.
routine stuff.
So I guess at the next meeting, we'll hopefully be able to come to make some decisions and come to resolution on things. It sounds like from the manager side, Dana has picked up the manager duties. Sherry, is there anything additional that you've had to do or that Dana's passed on at the moment, or just kind of what you have laid out here, your duties at the moment? Okay. And then on the field side of things, the ORC dues, it's, you know, y'all split up the things, whether it's well or distribution, and sounds like there's a desire to at least have somebody that can be available on the weekends, and but also see what the candidate pool looks like to have somebody here all the time that can do that as well. If we brought somebody in that was green, that did have some type of license, they can operate on the weekends by themselves once they're up to speed on things.
Like I said, there's a time frame associated with it, and we are kind of giving some leeway on whether or not we feel comfortable enough to extend our license over that, you know, umbrella over that guy.
Are you saying somebody had their own?
If they had a license that was equivalent.
Oh, no, they would have to have a D-Will
Okay.
in order to check the plants without, you know, anybody having to say, okay, or no, not there, you know.
He's saying if they had an equivalent license.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, sir. Yes, I'm sorry.
I'm saying if we got that candidate pool, somebody apply and they had that, and y'all, you know, like them over the other candidates based on qualifications, then they could kind of jump in as soon as they're familiar with the system and you feel comfortable with it.
I think that's what it's ultimately going to boil down to is what the pool yields. I mean, you're going to be limited by it. I'm going to do.
Okay. Is there anything else anyone wants to bring up along this topic? Roles, responsibilities, duties? That we've covered everything. We're double checking something.
No, sir. I'm
Okay.
just making a note of you wanted details on those forms that are to be, or, you know, have
Those-
yet to be
Yeah, those
submitted.
forms, when they were last submitted, when they're due, and yeah, the frequency. And then also the duties requirements for a field staff. starting with the job posting that Dana currently has, modifying it as needed. I'm assuming y'all have digital copies of these. Can you just email them to the board? That way Scott will have a copy as well. Thank you. Okay. I think there's anything else. So. Anything else from?
I think that covers it pretty much.
I would say as far as we're looking at hiring this new person, in some regards, the job description or requirements or what we would like to have out of them, somewhat should be put together by you two in some form of fashion, whether it's one with one of you or the other one or whatever, but
And that's literally what I just made a note of, desired qualifications of new hire.
because if we post this jobs, need somebody to work over here. You know, I don't know what, you know, like you just said, I gotta have a class or be licensed to be able to have my own way at it. I don't know that information to put in a description.
Gotcha.
And it might even be that you have to plus that would be a plus, because according to what you're kind of telling, you probably ain't hiring somebody with that qualification.
Yeah, there's usually minimum requirements
And then purpose.
and then preferences.
Desired. Yeah.
Yeah. And like minimum, I mean, you know, you have to
Be able to lift
have,
X
you
amount
have
of
to have a
pounds.
license, you have to do like a driver's license, you have to lift X amount, et cetera, et cetera. So we'll get it dialed in before it gets posted, to make sure it's good and run through the attorney and make sure that, you know, we're not asking for something that is discriminatory.
What's your lifting amount?
You don't want to know. It embarrass you. You're asking for my personal or what I put on there?
Just, yeah, what you put on there. I think it's like 80 pounds of kids.
Oh, really?
I'm pretty sure.
Hmm.
They used to be. May have gone down now.
That's why they didn't hire me.
Yeah.
Well,
All right, anything else? Have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
I didn't make a motion.
Second.
All right. Being adjourned.
Okay.